Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Naruto Shippuden episode review. This one's going to be for episode 470, Connecting Thoughts. Straight away, link to watch the episode if you haven't seen it yet in the description, but we're here for the review. So overall, a good episode, back to Canon, the main story this time. And yeah, solid episode. Don't think it was the greatest episode in that it was, all about basically getting Sasuke back from the dimension Kaguya sent him to. And so it was just kind of setting up the distraction needed for Obito, Sakura, and the clone of Naruto to get in there to then search the dimensions for Sasuke by going to that kind of root dimension area. Yeah, it was just kind of explaining that plan, giving kind of Sakura a pretty big moment, a lot of stuff about Obito. So again, it's one of those episodes where it's an episode. It's not. This isn't the episode where this really important thing happens. It's just okay. This part of the story takes place here, rather than these really big moments happen here. Not to say it was just a kind of random episode that's not really worth anything. It's just an episode, solid, but nothing overly fancy. I thought it was pretty well animated, and the performances were well done for the voice actors. But yeah, not the most exciting. But yeah, getting to some specifics here. I liked the explanation for the whole Kaguya plan and what ended up happening there. That Kaguya, Naruto's shadow clones, actually quite confused Kaguya and Zetsu in this episode, in that they found it very hard to kind of deal with the fact of which one is the real one, in that we can only deal with this insane amount of clones if we really get rid of the real one. And so they were transferring between dimensions, and they thought the real Naruto got in, but it was actually just a clone, and it wasn't even the clone that they thought got in. And it's just this kind of thing, they're so powerful that they're not keeping track of every little thing going on the battlefield. They just kind of brush aside, two other got in. They must have been just clones that ran out of the power, when it was actually Sakura and Obito who are the ones who are kind of going to get Sasuke back, which is the key thing that Kaguya is trying to kind of keep from happening in this battle. Sasuke getting back into it, and so Naruto and Sasuke being together can perform the seal to seal Kaguya away again. So I liked the kind of the thought process throughout this episode of just Kaguya dealing with the battle as effectively as she wants to kind of she has to do one thing: keep Naruto and Sasuke apart, otherwise she can't really be hurt, and then just avoid taking a lot of damage and having to overuse her chakra dealing with Naruto and stuff like that. And you see Zetsu doing most of the talking, and basically being the strategist of the two, while she is the power. So it's a pretty interesting dynamic, and just seeing kind of how it ended up working out. We see the kind of dead bone ash technique from Kaguya, which is we see it basically turns them into kind of ash and stone as they kind of fall apart. It's a pretty brutal death, but obviously it was just a clone of Naruto, and it shows just how skilled he is at that technique now, that he can basically keep the shadow clone together to make it look like it physically has died, and then pop the shadow clone once it's kind of done. So it's interesting that he can keep the shadow clone as basically a kind of dead pile of ash. That was quite interesting. But yeah, I suppose the big emotional aspect of this episode was the big stepping up moment for Sakura. She is going to give Obito her chakra from her Thousand Healings Jutsu, and that will power basically his Kamui, so he can check the dimensions to get Sasuke back. And it was a big one. You had a small short flashback just kind of showing you the moments where Sakura has stepped up for Naruto and how she really wants to do that again. Here, this has to be it. Naruto's doing the distraction. The real Naruto can't supply chakra in this situation. He has to focus his clones and most of his chakra on this. She has to be the one to help Obito do this. And it was a really big thing. I liked the emotion that came across here. She was so determined to get this done, and it worked. Obviously supplying the power to Obito, and then Obito's speech, I suppose, earlier on is also important to mention, that he's willing to sacrifice himself in this situation. He knows he doesn't have a lot of time left, and he has a lot to make amends for being a villain for most of the series. But here he is set on basically, as this this kind of interesting dynamic that he has with everyone. He's, Kakashi's friend. He has the same dream as Naruto, but he's the older version of the person who had that dream. He was trained by Naruto's father, of course, and he wants to help Sakura get Sasuke back because he can see that connection. You can see what he's trying to do, he's trying to do here, really make amends and help everyone out. And it was interesting as well that they also set up Kakashi as like, he's very much on the sidelines. There's nothing really for him to do here. He doesn't have the level of chakra to help Obito here. He doesn't have the level of power to take on Kaguya. So, as the preview at the end of this episode sets up, he is going to be dealing with some stuff in the next episode about kind of feeling like he's completely useless in this battle. He can't do anything, despite being their mentor and stuff like that. So, some important stuff coming up, but overall, just a kind of a tense episode, I think, is probably the best way to describe it, in that they were constantly setting up that Kaguya would retreat from Naruto's big attacks by going into the dimension world, but in this case he had to keep her from doing that, because otherwise Obito and Sakura would be spotted, and if they're spotted, basically there's nothing they can do. They have to be still to use the kind of Kamui to get into the different dimensions. And it was pretty nice. You see the effort he's going through. You see the Mangekyo Sharingan start to kind of bleed, which was obviously always a question a lot of people had with regards to Obito using it so much and then Kakashi using it so much. The idea, I suppose, being that it only starts to really affect your the whole blindness aspect of the Mangekyo Sharingan, without it being the eternal Mangekyo, is that it only seems to work when both eyes are in the same person. So it kind of makes sense that he has the power now of both eyes, obviously Obito having both of them now, and they don't work like that unless you have both of them now. So that's an interesting kind of approach to that, kind of explaining something that's been a question for a while in that way. So that's happening. He's overusing that. He's pushing himself to the limit, just with regards to the amount of chakra he's using, having to rely on others, and he's just willing to do anything for them. They do eventually get Sasuke back in it, as is the case with any of these things, but I have to check a bunch of locations. It's always the last location is the one where it is, and they had Sakura getting injured from the sea of acid, but still continuing, and then Sasuke gets out, and I really liked that moment where Sasuke got out, and they thought that he hadn't gotten out because he'd used his kind of Rinnegan kind of short-range teleportation technique, and he catches Sakura as she's about to faint from overuse of her chakra. And there's just this really nice kind of look between the two, that she's kind of half unconscious staring up at him and he's just kind of looking down at her, aware that the only reason he's back in the fight is because of her. And there's no word said, it was just this kind of really nice moment of him acknowledging what she's done and the importance of what she's done, and saving her from falling. He does care, but we don't have the full extent of how he feels just yet. So I thought that was actually a really nice moment for their relationship. Not necessarily in the most romantic sense, but just showing that she really cares about him and wants to do everything she can to save him. But he also does care about her. We just don't know the full extent of his feelings. So yeah, I think that's about all I really want to say here. The stuff with Naruto and the Shadow Clones was interesting. He obviously does an insane amount of Shadow Clones and temporarily actually overwhelms Kaguya before she retreats into her dimension. I thought that was quite interesting, that just sheer number of clones actually affected Kaguya, and that Naruto actually can handle her okay one-on-one. She's obviously super dangerous, and if the real Naruto gets hit, it's game over basically. But I liked that he was holding his own, and he was actually being a reasonably good distraction. So yeah, that's about all I really wanted to say here. They do establish that Kaguya has figured out which is the real Naruto. The truth-seeking orbs are around the real one, and so that's what she's going to target from here on out. So yeah, solid episode, not the greatest episode, but there was nothing really bad about it. It was just return to canon, solid content. I'm excited to see what they do with the next episode. That seems super important next week. So yeah, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.